Hey growers, what's up? My name's Lucas and we're into October now, and it's what I refer to as the garden apocalypse because the garden starts to get diseased, it starts to get, start to die, unfortunately. And so in this video, I'm going to be explaining how you can actually extend your tomato crop by minimizing this disease as much as possible. This episode is actually very fitting because this Sunday is the season 10 premiere of one of my favorite TV series, The Walking Dead. So without further ado, come on, let's get started. So in my garden, I'm starting to see some late blight and some powdery mildew on my tomato plants. And this will spread throughout the whole garden and pretty much demolish my plants if I don't do anything about it. It's pretty much inevitable. It happens this late in the season due to a variety of things like excessive moisture. There's a lot of moisture in the fall usually. Also cooler temperatures, and the plants are just kind of getting old. They're getting at the end of their life cycle, and that's bound to happen with age. So you might be wondering, why is this a problem? Well, this is actually an issue because eventually, what I've found in my garden at least, is late blight actually spreads to your tomato fruits themselves. I don't have any examples right here to show you today, but eventually what's going to happen is the late blight is going to actually get into the fruits. So it's going to get into your tomato fruits. So once the late blight actually infects the fruits themselves, they're pretty much inedible. You could probably cut that part out, but I wouldn't really recommend it. So when I grow tomatoes, I try to eliminate this disease because that will increase the amount of time the fruits will have to ripen before the plants get infected by disease. So that way I'm going to actually end up with more tomatoes to harvest. So in order to get rid of the disease, the first thing I do is I actually remove leaves that are really diseased. So you'll notice if you look closely that this tomato plant right here, actually I've cut off a lot of the branches. As you can see, probably about 3.5 feet up the plant. And the reason I've done that is because they've started to get a bit of blight on them and powdery mildew. And I want to just actually cut it off and throw the leaves in the garbage. You don't want to put them on your compost pile because what's going to happen is it could actually spread to your compost or whatever. So you want to make sure that you get rid of it, and that's basically kind of the most primitive way to kind of cut down on your disease in the fall. And that's what I do because I'm not a big proponent of using sprays where you're going to spray your plants for disease. There's a lot of antifungal sprays out there on the market, but I personally don't do it, and I really don't recommend any gardeners to go out and do that because one of the reasons you should be growing your own vegetables is because of all the pesticides farmers spray, in my opinion. So I just want to kind of eliminate the nasty sprays if possible. I mean, I'm not a true purist gardener. Not everything I use is organic, but that being said, I don't like to spray my plants with store-bought chemicals that could potentially harm me when I eat the fruits. So you'll see this tomato plant here is pretty badly infected with blight. And if it was a dry day, I would actually take my pruning shears and I'd cut off these really badly infected leaves. But since it's wet outside today, it's raining, I'm not going to do that because if you prune when it's wet outside, you're gonna have more chance of spreading that disease because disease, in general, it thrives in moist environments. So wait for a dry day before you prune. That's what I think. So what I do is I cut off all the really badly diseased leaves off of one plant, and then after that, I clean my pruning shears. So how I do that is I take some sort of antiseptic. This here is hydrogen peroxide. It's the kind of stuff you put on, scratches and cuts. And what that's going to do is it's going to actually sterilize the pruning shears. Wow, I just poured way too much. So what you want to do is just take your cotton ball with the rubbing alcohol on it, or whatever sort of antiseptic you want to use, and just fairly quickly but thoroughly kind of wipe down your pruning shears. And that's just going to get off all that bacteria and disease that you might transfer onto another plant when you're pruning that one. So this is just a good practice to get into. I really don't do it all the time because I'm kind of lazy sometimes, but you know, like I said, it's a good habit to get into. So I cut off the diseased leaves, and that's pretty much the main thing I do to keep my plants as healthy as possible, as long as possible. But really, it starts with prevention. So you want to make sure that you give your plants ample room. Don't crowd them, because what that's going to do is it's going to invite all sorts of different diseases that thrive on humid, moist environments. Just maintain overall healthier plants so that they can really thrive and not get disease, because it's just like humans, right? If you're a healthy human, in general, I think you're a lot less likely to get disease. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for today. If you like zombie shows, highly recommend The Walking Dead. Check it out. It's a really good series. It's starting to get kind of boring now, in my opinion, because most of the main characters have either died or left. So yeah, but start from season 1 if you haven't watched it. Highly recommend it. Really good show.